Hi everybody, we're going to be talking about present progressive today. To kind of give you a reference of what we're talking about, you see the little ing down in the corner. That's because in English, to make the present progressive, we use the ing. So let's talk about this a little bit. In English, present progressive is used to talk about what's happening now, but also in English, we tend to use it to talk about what is going to be happening soon. I've got a couple of examples here. I am watching TV, that would be happening now, or I am studying for an hour tonight. You notice I'm not actually studying right now, I'm saying what's going to be happening soon. And so in English, that's perfectly fine to use the present progressive for that. In Spanish, however, present progressive is used to talk about what's happening now. My example down below, estoy estudiando, means I am studying. And if I were going to be using that, I would be wanting to tell the speaker that that's what's happening now, not what's going to be happening in the future. So how do we form the present progressive? The present progressive, just like in English, it has two parts. There's the primary verb that in Spanish is usually estar, but not always. It can be other things. And it's followed by a present participle, which is a really fancy name for something that's actually really quite simple. So let's break those two pieces up, the primary verb and the present participle. We'll talk about them separately, and then we'll put the two together. You'll see this is really fast. It's really easy. Not a problem at all. In English, the primary verb is frequently the verb to be. In other words, we see I am, you are, he is, we are, you are some of my examples here, to talk about that this person is doing this thing. In Spanish, we frequently use the verb estar, but we can also use the verb seguir. You'll see the little note there that it's an E to I stem changer, or the verb andar. We're going to use it exactly the same way. That is, if we were going to be using the verb estar, you can see down here, we've got it, I've got the different conjugations. So if it's I'm doing it, I would say yo estoy. If it's you are, it would be tú estás. Remember, that's you as in somebody I can call by first name or a family member. Usted, that's the formal you, or él, ella, está, he or she is. Nosotros, which could also be nosotras, would be estamos. Vosotros, which same thing, could be vosotras, is going to be estáis. That's the you plural. Remember, that's primarily used in Spain. And then ustedes, ellos, ellas, están. So you guys, the you plural, or they are. And this is going to be the verb that we see out in front. So this is going to be the verb that's actually conjugated to show who the subject is. The present participle, the second part of the equation, in English, we would just take the verb and we would add ing in most cases. So I have a couple of examples here, like we have talking. I just took the verb talk and added ing to the back. Walking, again, I just took the verb walk and added ing to the back. Reading, just took read, added ing. Studying, same thing. In Spanish, it's really similar. It's not exactly the same, but it's really similar. I'm going to take the verb, and unlike English, where I don't have to take anything off, in Spanish, I take off the AR, I take off the ER, I take off the IR from the back of the verb. I'm going to then change that to ANDO or IENDO. If it's an AR verb, it's going to get ANDO. If it's an ER or an IR verb, it's going to get IENDO. So here's a couple of examples. Hablar, I get rid of the AR, change it to ANDO, and I get hablando. That's the equivalent of saying talking. Comer becomes comiendo. Take off the ER, add IENDO. Vivir becomes viviendo. Again, take off the IR, add IENDO. And you can see those are the equivalent of eating or living. It's the equivalent of in English putting ing on the verb. So I've got a primary verb, I've got a present participle, so what do I do with them? I just put them back to back in the sentence. That is to say, my form of estar we see here, estoy, estás, está, estamos, están. And then my present participle, which is really the verb stem, plus the ANDO or IENDO, and we would get hablando, comiendo, viviendo, or any other AR, ER, IR verb. So down below, I have these examples. I have I am talking, estoy hablando. I am eating, estoy comiendo. I am leaving, estoy saliendo. So we see it's really just, I'm going to take a form of the verb estar. I'm going to take a form another verb, the actual action that's going on, and add the ANDO or IENDO to it. And there's my sentence. It's really just that simple. There are a couple of other considerations that we have to keep track of. The first one is present participles are not conjugated. Remember, to conjugate means to make agree with the subject, but the verb estar or seguir or andar is doing all of that. The other verb that gets the ANDO, the IENDO, doesn't ever change. You'll notice here the primary verb does all the work. Estoy hablando, estás hablando. It doesn't matter if I'm a guy, I'm a girl, it would be estoy hablando. It doesn't matter if there were 50 of us. Estamos hablando. Hablando never changed. So you can see it's not actually conjugated. And what this means for us is that because it's not conjugated, if we have a pronoun, we could attach it to the back if we wanted to. Taking the verb lavarse, to wash, I can take that lavando, the present participle, estoy lavando, I am washing, and add the me to the back that would have happened because it was lavarse. And so we see in the model here, estoy lavándome. The other thing that you should see is that lavando has an accent on the A. Whenever I add a pronoun to the back of a present participle, because it doesn't end AR, ER, or IR, if I add a pronoun, it's going to get an accent. And that accent's always going to be where that stress would have been before I added the pronoun. So I would have said lavándome. That's we hear that stress happening on the second A, lavándome, and so that's where the accent's going to go. And that's why I have estoy lavándome las manos. I am washing my hands. If it's an IR verb and it was a stem changer in the present tense, it's still going to be a stem changer in the present progressive. AR verbs don't stem change in the present progressive. ER verbs don't stem change in the present progressive, but IR verbs do. And that change is going to be different than it was in the present progressive. You can see here the changes are going to become O to U or E to I. In the present tense, we would have had O to UE, and we would have had E to IE or E to I. In the present progressive, it's just O to U, and it's just E to I, even if it was an E to IE stem changer before. I have a couple of examples here. We have estoy durmiendo. See how we have DUR instead of DOR and instead of DUER. And I have estoy pidiendo. We see pedir, PED became PID. So I have estoy pidiendo ayuda. When the verbs end in EER, and I didn't write it, but EIR as well, what's going to happen is I take off that ER or that IR, and that's going to give me EIENDO, and that doesn't work in Spanish. It's just, it's kind of like Old MacDonald doesn't do Spanish, no EIE or EIOs. So what happens is we're going to take that I that's between the two E's, and we're going to change it to a Y. So we would get LEYENDO. You see down below, estoy leyendo. I'm going to turn that I into a Y, and that would give me I am reading. So that's the present progressive in a nutshell. It does require some practice, so if you're in my class, you'll be able to find some practice on the Moodle site, or you'll be able to find practice on my regular website. Just look for LSeed's webpage. If you're not in my class, again, there's some practice on my website. For everybody, there's also some good practice on studyspanish.com. See ya.